Hello everybody, welcome back into some more Space Engineers. In today's episode of my Beginner's Guide tutorial series, I'm going to go ahead and show you the basic kind of key bindings. So first of all, you obviously have your W, A, S, and D to move around. You can use your left shift to sprint around, and then C is to crouch, and X is to enable your jetpack. As you can see, I am flying around. But if we just take a quick look, of course spacebar is to jump, and then you have your jetpack, which can easily, obviously, fly around. Now C is to go down, space is to go up, as you can see. And then if you hold E, you rotate to the right, and Q to rotate to the left. Now, of course, W, A, S, and D is to move your key, or your character, rather, sorry. And then the very important part is if we hit I, you can go into your character inventory. If you hit K, you can go into your control panel. But do keep in mind that you are needed to be in a control panel or a cockpit of some kind attached to the grid that you would like to access the control panel in. Now, while you're inside of a vehicle cockpit or a control station, or even as your character, you can go ahead and hit V to go into third person, and then you can hit Alt to free look, and then you can also use your scroll wheel to look around, zoom in and out, and look at what you want to look at. Now if we do the same thing but in the cockpit, we'll see that we get the third person view of our ship. But as you can see, it's just a platform with some gyros and reactors on it, just because this is like a demonstration platform for my tutorials. But anyways, the reason I am in this cockpit is because if we go ahead and hit Y, if you watch those three little green dots, I guess technically 6 you can see, but anyways, those three little green dots with the square tops, if we go ahead and hit Y, we'll see that that turns that off. Now what Y does is while you're in a grid that has power like batteries or reactors, you can go ahead and hit Y and it'll turn it on and off. So if you're ever in a situation where your stuff is not on and you can't really get it on, either go into your control panel by hitting K, searching for your reactor, and you can simply turn it off and on, or you can go ahead and hit Y to cycle everything that is attached to the opposite of the power for that block. Now if we go ahead, if you look into the bottom right corner, you'll see that there is a couple of different bars there: the hydrogen, the power of the grid, the amount of time this grid has for power, and then the weight. But if we look above that, we'll see 3 icons. One says P, one says O, and one says Y. Now P is for your park brake if we enable that, but if we were on a rover, let's say, then it would lock the rover and we would not be able to move. Alright, if we take a quick look here, as we can see, I'm in my ugly duckling, I call it at least. This is a survival build that I made in my survival series. Be sure to check that out, please and thank you. But if we take a quick look and we actually just bring the ship down again by holding C, the jetpack controls apply to the ships as well. So if we just go ahead and push C to go ahead and lock, and as you can see, the landing gear has locked by turning green on the landing gear. And if we look in the bottom right corner, the P icon has now illuminated itself. So if we go ahead and push P again, you'll see that the landing gear will turn yellow, indicating it is ready to lock, but it has not locked yet. It just auto locked by itself. But we'll look down in the right hand corner and we'll see that the P is no longer illuminated when I push that. And let's go ahead down and get right up next. Oops. There we go. Now let's just stop this grid here. But anyways, let's get off that. So the park brake works on ships as well. Alright, let's go ahead and oops. Now as you just saw there, I did two things. First of all, if you hit enter, that brings up your global chat. And then if you hit control and then delete, if you're in creative mode, keep in mind that if you hit control and delete, you can delete the object that you, or the grid that you are looking at. Now, if you want to go into the admin controls, for example, you're in a survival world or something like that, and you just want to, I don't know, delete your build and restart or something, let's go ahead and push Alt and F10. And that'll bring up this beautiful little menu here, which allows you to do a lot of different things like trash removal. I spend a lot of time in here sometimes, which basically just allows you to, well, set the trash removal settings. But I generally stay in admin controls, which allows you to enable creative mode tools, which will give you the access for something like control delete to delete a whole grid, invulnerable, untargetable, show all players, can use all terminals, blah 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 blah. These are all pretty self-explanatory. Can use all terminals, for example, is if you're an admin on a server and let's say there's a hacker and you just want to I don't know, kind of invade and see if he is actually hacking, so you can access all terminals with no issues. And yeah, everything is pretty self-explanatory here. Time offset, again, is pretty self-explanatory. As you slide this little slider here, the sun will whip around, and you can see, you can set the time of day to your specific preferences. Now, if we go ahead and hit F10 again, but this time without hitting Alt, you'll bring up your blueprint menu, which will allow you to spawn in, let's say, the asteroid miner. There we go. Well, all you got to do is just double click, and there you go. You have your miner. Well, my miner is now spawned in. Now, I don't want this, so I'm going to go ahead, hit Control Delete, and then Enter. Now moving on to the changing your hotbar. As you can see on the bottom of the screen, there is 9 slots and 0 is my hand. You can also hit tilde, the button right left of the 1 key, and you can, like, let's say I have this selected, but I don't want to see that anymore because I'm not building it, or I just want a nice serene view. I can go ahead and hit tilde, or I can go ahead and hit 0, and it will remove that from my hand, and it'll just be my hands, so I'll be floating here with nothing. Now you can hit Control 1, will bring up the first hotbar selection menu, I guess. You can hit Control 2, 3, 4, 5, and it goes on all the way to 9. Now, in order to get into your build menu to actually be able to build the blocks and fill up your hotbar to what you were trying to build, you can go ahead and hit G. If you bring that up, you can go down here and clear your hotbar by clicking, right-clicking, and you can double-click on any block you'd like to add, or if you want it in a specific position, you can go ahead and left-click and drag to wherever you'd like it. But I don't want this hotbar here, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. Something to note while you're in a ship is, as you can see, the basic movement keys apply. You can hit W, A, S, and D to move forwards, backwards, left, and right, and then C again, as I was saying, to go down, and spacebar to go up. Now, if you look in the bottom left corner, you'll see that there is a red triangle that says dampeners off with a exclamation point cut out of it, or mark cut out of it. If we go ahead and hit Z on our keyboard, we'll see that we can turn on inertial dampeners. Now, what that does is it will slow you down and bring you to a complete stop. But if I want to, let's say, oh, I don't know, I'm heading over this way, and I have my dampeners off to save hydrogen, so I'm not trying to stop myself, but I want to go to this asteroid here. If I just start pointing at it, I'm just simply going to start blasting in that general direction. I'm still moving up over here, but what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to hit Z, so that, as you can see, these thrusters then turn on to stop my traveling in this direction and bring me down back over to here. As we can see, we're coming in a much better trajectory to these asteroids here. But let's say I actually change my mind and I want to go up to this one. All you got to do, push Z, and there you go. Now your dampeners will turn on and automatically bring you back into where your crosshair is here. It takes a little while because I don't have many thrusters on there, but that is okay. So let's go blasting off into outer space just for fun. Now, how you get in and out of vehicles is you hit F on your keyboard. And as you'll see, I jumped out of a moving spaceship, but I'm flying right beside it. Now, you may be wondering how that is. If you look down in the left-hand corner again, you'll see that there is a blue triangle this time. It says dampeners on auto. And as you can see, there is a spaceship with a little speedometer, I guess, beside it. If you want to, let's slow this down a little bit. We're going a little too fast for my liking. Alright, now we're going a much more reasonable 67 meters a second. So let's go ahead, and as you can see, that dampener says auto. If you want to get rid of that, all you have to do is hit Z, and then you'll just float alongside it until you hit Z again, which, as you can see, it slows me down a lot faster than, or it slows me down so that the ship goes rocketing off. Let's go ahead and catch up to it real quick here. So let's say you accidentally jumped out of your ship and it is going flying off in this situation here. All you have to do is come up to the grid, look at the grid, and hit Control Z, and it will automatically turn on the auto dampeners. But this thing doesn't really matter to me, so let's go ahead and I'm gonna go thrusters, and I'm gonna go backwards, and I'm gonna throw on the thrust override, and you can have fun blasting off. Bye! Alright, now back at the build platform here. If you look in the top right corner, we'll see that it says experimental mode. Press Shift F1 for more information. All this will do is give you information on your grids and any issues with your game that happens to be occurring at this moment. For example, like this game really doesn't like or approve of rotor drilling. Make sure to check out my tutorial that'll be popping up here on how to set up a rotor drill and automate your drilling process. But anyways, something like that, it will pop up here showing you that, hey, this is a little bit unstable and I don't like it. But you can generally ignore these warnings in here. They're not too game breaking, but they definitely are something to keep an eye on if you're testing something out for the first time. But anyways, I get off that screen. How you actually exit, enter settings, for example, exit the game, save your game, is all you want to do is hit escape key, and there you go. You can go ahead and do all your tinkering in here. Now if we look over, what was that? Now if we look over in the bottom left corner of our screen and above those 4 bars there, we'll see that we have 4 different icons above our hydrogen, power, oxygen, and health bars. We'll see that J will open and close our visor. Let's go ahead and demonstrate that. I'm in creative mode. Don't do this in space in survival mode, otherwise you will most certainly die. But as you can see, I can open and close my visor. X, as I was saying, is to turn on your jetpack. O will turn on your internal antenna so that you can communicate with ships, and if you're playing in multiplayer worlds, you can communicate your position with your crewmates. But I don't like that. I generally keep that off. And another option is L. Now, as you'll see, I have MXB1, which is mouse button 1. That just basically allows, because I have a couple of buttons on my my mouse, that will allow me to control, for example, my inventory. Oh, get out of there, please. My inventory, and it'll also allow me to control my headlights. Now, if you look up here, you have these little lamps on the top of your head there that turn on. That's not very evident in the bright sunshine, but if we come down here and we just simply, again, alt to free look as you're in third person, it actually works in first person, but you can only go up and down. If you look left and right, as you'll see, my body follows me. It doesn't free look in in first person when you're free looking. But if you want to go ahead, if you screwed up and you don't really, let's say you're like this and you have your welder, but your welder isn't exactly where you're pointing it because your arms do not move relative to your camera. The arms stay exactly where they are, but you can't see your welder until it's activated. All you have to do is hit V and then V again to reset your camera. But anyways, let's go back into third person here, and we'll go ahead and turn on our lights. As you can see, we have very powerful lights. Beautiful cones of light. Yes, nice. So something else you might want to use is something called spectator mode. And now this is a setting that you're going to need to change within the actual game settings on the start menu. But if you enable spectator mode, you can go ahead and hit F8 and you'll enter free cam spectator mode. As you can see, I'm standing right over here in my beautiful pink suit. But if we go ahead and hit F6, I'll return to my character and we'll start playing as a character again. If we hit F7, this is a standard kind of fixed camera, and as you can see, you don't know where my player is. Let's go ahead and walk off the edge here. It's just a tiny bit above my player, or below my player, sorry. And this is confusing me. Anyways, if we go ahead and hit F8, we can again be in free cam, but if you, let's say you have a position that you want to stay in, you can go ahead and hit F9 and we'll begin controlling our player, but this time in spectator mode. F11 will bring up your debug menu. I wouldn't worry too much about this until you start getting into some seriously crazy builds and stuff like that, which require you to keep an eye on the game's on the game's performance. If you go ahead and hit Shift F11, you'll see in the top left corner there, it brings up a whole bunch of game, it brings up the stats of what's going on in the game. There's quite a few different screens, as you can see. Just to cycle through them, just go ahead and hit Shift F11 until it either disappears or you find the screen that you're looking for. If you go ahead and hit Shift F4, it'll go ahead and take a screenshot, but I prefer using F12, and as you can see, I accidentally hit F12. I didn't want to do that, but anyways, I prefer F12 or Windows key and then print screen if you want to take a screenshot. As you can see, I just hit F5 to bring up the quick load screen, which if you're in a single player world is pretty self-explanatory. If you screwed something up and you don't really want to rebuild it, all you have to do is hit F5 and you'll simply reload the game, your last save. Let's get back into camera mode here. But if we go ahead and hit backspace, you'll see that you can respawn as well, and you just hit yes, that'll kill you, and it'll bring you to the respawn screen. Now I'm in an empty survival world, so I only have one option, and that's spacesuit. And then you can go and collect all your goodies from here, but I don't care. Get all of that off my face, and I'll just lay there for eternity, I guess. Grandiose. Anywho, now when you're building blocks, there are a couple of things to note. First of all, in creative mode, if you hit Control and then use your scroll wheel, you can move your block, whatever block you're placing, or you can move whatever ship you're placing and move it however far or however close you wish. Now, in order to bring up a recently pasted blueprint, you're going to have to be in creative, and all you have to do is hit Control V, and there you go. If I look at a grid and I hit Control C, it copies that grid, and I can move it wherever I want. As you can see, this is an exact copy of the grid I am currently on, but I don't want to use that, so I'm just going to go ahead and push Escape to get rid of it. Now, if you're building a block and you're actually in survival or even in creative, this works in both ways, you can go ahead and use End Home, the page up, page down, insert, and delete to rotate your block in the position that you want. This works a little bit better as when you're on, let's use a reactor. This works a little bit better when you're attaching it to a grid. As you can see, I can change the direction I want. Let's say I wanted it there, and I wanted to add, let's say a small cargo container. Let's add one of those. There we go. Because if the reactor was like this, then the cargo container would have to be over here or up top. But I wouldn't want that there. I want it right there for whatever reason. Now moving on to a little bit more fun of a piece of this tutorial. If we go ahead and select a block, let's say just well, actually you don't really need to even select anything. If you go ahead and hit P on your keyboard, you'll bring up your color picker painting menu. So let's go ahead and just click black, and I'm going to choose carbon fiber black. Now keep in mind that this row here, this one here, and then these two skins are actually DLC, so you do need to buy these packs to actually have access. Things without the little icon in the bottom right corner, like this camouflage armor skin here, does not need, it's part of the base game, so you can build this these four skins in the base game. But anyways, you can go ahead and either hit OK or just hit Escape, and now if we take a quick look, we can see that that is now black. If we look at a block that we want to paint, we can simply hit middle click, and it will, as you can see, it has painted. Wow, that's kind of hard to see. Let's go ahead and change that to a different color, but let's there you go. You can see that it has painted it. Now if you want to go ahead and paint a kind of small area but relatively decent, a 3x3 grid, you can go ahead and hit Control and then middle click as well, and it'll paint a 3x3. If you want to paint an even bigger area, I believe it's 5x5, but let's go ahead and hit Shift and then middle click, and then there you go, you got an even bigger area. But if you want to go ahead and paint the entire grid all in one go ahead and hit Shift or Control Shift and then middle click, and as you can see, it painted absolutely everything attached to this grid. Everything is now a beautiful red. Alright, now if we want to go ahead and build a layout or a ship that we want to be symmetrical, which most ships are going to be symmetrical, but as you can see, I've gone on to a small grid. I've converted from large grid by using this rotor, attached a small rotor head, and now I'm in small grid. This does not work for a platform like this, for example. It will need to be like a separate grid kind of thing. Anyways, if we look at the grid that we want to build symmetrically and we have a block equipped, we can go ahead, keep in mind, sorry, that this needs to be in creative to be able to use this trick, but if we look at the grid and we go ahead and push M, as we can see, there's this red wall that pops up. If this is the axis you want to build on, go ahead and left click, and as you can see, it has brightened the color, but we don't want to build that axis, let's say, so we can go ahead and right click to get rid of that selection. As you can see, if let's turn that off for a second. Let's let's go ahead and bring it over here. As you can see, that axis stays there as we move, and we can change it as we see fit. Well, let's get rid of that completely. I don't want to build on that axis, so I'm going to go ahead and push M a couple of times to change the axis here. Now, as you can see, there are two different selections for each axis. One is in the middle of the block and one is on the end of the block. Now, what this allows you to do is, if we just go back to the red and let's go here. Are you going to set there? It builds a 2-block wide center. So if I want to go ahead and build an even ship, which it has its uses, but I don't generally do that. So I'm going to go ahead and go back into the symmetry mode. I'm going to clear that, and I'm going to push N and then N once more, and then M to bring up the planner so that I have 1 block building, like 1 block spine. Now, how you select that and actually start building is you want to hit N once and then N once more. Now, as you can see, we build 1 block on the right side, I guess, and it builds on the left side. The way we're looking at it is left to right, but as you can see, we can go ahead and build how many ever we want, and it builds the exact same thing on the other side. Same is true for deleting objects. Keep in mind, though, that once it's deleted from the grid, it no longer deletes at the same pace. So I just deleted that whole bar, but this thing is still here. Now, as you can see, I've deleted this, or this is all highlighted in red, and that's because I want to delete this whole thing in one foul swoop. Now, again, you need to be in creative mode to do this, so how I did that was I looked at the block I wanted to start at, in this case the end block here, and I hit Control to drag the deletion process, and Control right click to drag the deletion selection area, and then you release right click and it completely deletes it. Same is true for building a block. Let's hit Control and drag out, and there we go. As you can see, it built it on both sides because we're still in the symmetry mode. Now, a nice little trick is if you go ahead, hit Control, Shift, and then left click, you can build a nice wall. And the same again is true for Control Shift and right click. It'll delete the whole wall for you. Now, how you turn off this symmetry mode is all you have to do is simply push N and it'll just go away and you can build as normal. And then once you push N again, it'll come up with the same selection that you had, so you can simply continue building the way that you want to. It's not a very good example, but let's go ahead and put 1 there and 1 there. One final thing to note before I go ahead and sign off is if you hit Tab, it will turn off your heads-up display completely. The first one will turn off tooltips that pop up on the right side. For example, when you look at something, let's get back into first person here. If you push Tab once after having no HUD, as you can see, the right side UI will show you exactly what that block is. It'll give you a description of it, but if you already know your way around the game, you can go ahead and hit Tab again and it'll just show you what it needs, if it's damaged, who it was built by, all that good stuff on the right side of your screen. If you want to take a screenshot like I'm about to do, you can go ahead and turn off your HUD, and that gets rid of everything. Now, if you're ever lost, go ahead and just hit the minus button, and that'll bring up the actual control buttons, or all the different controls there are, and kind of give you, not the movement controls and all that stuff, but it will show you kind of basically what I've just gone over. So I hope you guys found this tutorial useful. I hope I was able to give you a very good understanding of the key bindings for this game. If you did, please, if I was able to give you a hand and help you with your startup in Space Engineers, please do give me a like, subscribe, and comment down below that I gave you a nice starting push in the way of tooltips, or sorry, toolbar or keybind. My goodness, what am I saying here? Anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Again, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I was able to help you. Please don't forget to check out my survival series. I'll link it in the description, and I might put up another card right here. But anyways, guys, that's going to go ahead and do it for this episode. Make sure to tune in for the next tooltips guide, or tutorial guide, beginner's guide, whatever I'm trying to call this thing. But anyways, guys, again, I hope you enjoyed it, and until next time, ladies and gents, peace.